Hi, my name is Nathan Tout-Puissant, and today I will be discussing the Salem witch trials, which pertains to my hometown of Boston, Massachusetts. Now, before I get too in depth, I'd like to provide some brief insight as to what are the Salem witch trials. The Salem witch trials were really a series of events spurred on by mob mentality and false accusations. Now, those two things just don't go together great. Now, the result of this was the death of over 25 Salem residents and the false accusation of over 150. Now, what exactly brought about these deaths slash accusations? According to History.com, during the early years of Salem, a lot of villagers were afflicted with illnesses they hadn't learned about yet. Because at this point in time, science, modern medicine, these were all terms associated with witchcraft. So anyone who could interpret or even rationally solve the problem or identify it, they were deemed a heretic. Now, the trials themselves didn't last very long, but the signs of the illnesses were consistent with that of people that are typically possessed. Now, what do I mean when I say this? Signs of illnesses amongst the villagers were involuntary muscle spasms, vomiting, nausea, and hallucinations. Now, due to how many villagers were afflicted, as opposed to dealing with it from a medical standpoint, they decided to address it in the court from a supernatural standpoint. So all you had to do was collect supernatural evidence, sufficient supernatural evidence. And the issue with this was being that it is supernatural, anyone can claim anything because it's not necessarily a hard science and it's still an ongoing debate within our community to this day. Now, with this, the main issue was people claiming supernatural were younger citizens, such as the pastor's daughter. A young group of girls were caught dancing and frolicking within the woods. And rather than claiming responsibility for what they had done, they deflected the blame onto a young slave by the name of Tituba. Now, during this time, Tituba and other slaves alike were very much oppressed. They were the minority. So, no matter what was said, there's not much that could be done on her behalf. And this led to a spiral of accusations that eventually ended in the unfortunate events known as the Salem witch trials. And hoping we'd learn, which we did not, it kind of repeated itself in the late 1970s with the resurgence of this mentality via McCarthyism. And this was largely due to communism. And it's that distrust that really just keeps coming back. And that's really inevitable because we are social creatures by nature, for better or for worse. But going forward, I'd like to think we don't make this mistake again. Now, the reason McCarthyism ended a lot better was because now we have new standards of evidence, which is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, not just hearsay or the words of just one man alone. Now, knowing what you know now, I'd like to introduce why I took such an interest in this. Now, the Salem witch trials, it really is just one of the earliest things we learn about in Boston primary schools. It's honestly the earliest injustice right next to Thanksgiving because even with simple events like Thanksgiving, we didn't really learn that it was an injustice until later on. It was just seen as people coming together. But with the witch trials, it was the oppression of a marginalized group outside of my own identity. And that really struck an interest within me because at a young age, it taught me that the world isn't always right. And that was the lesson that was gradually reinforced as I got older. And I think that was the earliest instance of it. But that is really the reason why I took an interest in it today. Thank you for listening.